ballin' to my very last breath. I'm ballin' to my very last breath.
All right, everybody, let's jump into it. Welcome to Conference Championship Weekend in the NFL. Game one today will be the Broncos versus the Patriots. The Patriots are favored by 3.5 points. They will be going to Denver. And then game two on the day is Seattle versus LA Rams. Seattle's favored by -2.5, and this game will be in Seattle, okay? We're going to go over both the games today, go through stats, historical context, and then at the end I'll give you my pick for the weekend. It's going to be a specialty parlay. Impact, baby. All right, so I'm going to go over the Seattle game first and then work into the AFC Championship game with Denver and New England and lead you guys right into that. Let's start off with the Rams coming up to Seattle. Okay, looking at some game context and storylines for this one. Historically, in the playoffs, the number one scoring defense versus the number one scoring offense. The number one scoring defense is 7-1 overall in history. I like those odds for the Seahawks. However, this Rams team is quite the anomaly on offense. They are number one in the NFL. Rams have a 13-5 record heading into this. All 5 losses this year have been determined by one score. They are no joke. Don't let that record fool you into thinking they're something they're not. They're an absolute Super Bowl contender, and they're going to be a tough challenge coming up to Seattle. Another tough challenge that the Rams face is that there's only been 6 teams in the history to win 3 road games in a row to advance to the Super Bowl, so they are up against a tall task, not to mention Seattle's on a 7-game winning streak. The head-to-head matchups this year have been great. Everybody's talked about it. It's been decided by a total of 3-point difference. Now, some of the things that concern me, I'm obviously from Seattle. I'm a Seattle fan. We had an amazing win against them at home on that Thursday night game, 38-37 in OT, but lots of things went our way. We had a fluke 2-point conversion where Charbonnet picked it up. Everybody thought the play was dead. They counted it because it was a backwards pass. And some of the things that concern me here is the Rams had 581 total yards of offense. While we did rack up 415 as Darnold picked things up and played a lot better, I'm not expecting a 1,000 total yard offense game tonight. I don't want Seattle to get in that. I want Seattle to find more ways to manage Matt Stafford and find ways to continue pounding the rock. Over the last 4 games, Seattle's been extremely successful, averaging 160 yards or more per game on the ground. I'd like to see that happen tonight, keep the score down, allow Sam Darnold to be the game manager that he is, and execute a game-winning drive and beat this team. Okay, some of the things that went wrong last time with Seattle versus the Rams. We blitzed Matthew Stafford several times. That is not the best idea. Stafford has thrown 24 touchdowns and 0 interceptions against red zone blitzes. That is an absurdly efficient statistic, okay? When Stafford is under pressure, he's better. A lot of the big plays we saw in that last matchup, we blitz and Stafford has insane recognition. He fills that void and finds guys that are open during the blitz. So we want to find a way to manufacture pressure on him with a 4-man rush without trying to blitz too much. Obviously, you're going to have to make some of them in there. Going to have to be really creative, although I do trust McDonald to come up with some good scheme to slow this guy down. Stafford has a great resume against the Hawks. 600 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions against us this year. He has a 6-1 career record against us. He has 55 game-winning drives in his career. I mean, he's just done this over and over and over again. And then this year in the NFL, he has 13 touchdowns to 1 pick in the fourth quarter. So he's a veteran who thrives under pressure. Seriously, a guy that has to be a huge focus for us. He's had a lot of success against us this year, and you're going to have to find a way to get him shut down or at least slow him down. Sam Darnold, former top 3 pick, been a starter in multiple different spots, but first ever quarterback to have back-to-back 14-win seasons on 2 separate teams. The only other person to do that is Tom Brady. So he wins football games. I mean, the guy's a dog. I like to call him Darnold the dog. I love this guy. He absolutely does his job. Sam Darnold, I mean, he's tough as nails too. And you see all the criticism out there, all that stuff, for him to just bear down and grit it out and find ways to win games with everybody talking crap. Man, I love this guy. I think he's an absolute beast, and I think he's settling in to those clutch pressure moments and performing great. I mean, come on. You can't ask for much more of what he's given us over the last 4 weeks. Very effective off the play action. Again, that's why it's going to be very important for Seattle to get the ball on the ground, get K9 fed, maybe mix Helani in there. We have Cam Akers. We got to get the ball on the ground. We got to run the ball efficiently because we pass so well off of play action. And if we're able to establish the run game that keeps the ball out of Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Devontae Adams' hands for longer, we want to have long possessions this game. Don't want to get in that shootout mess again. Stafford is too lethal. Again, like I said, Stafford has been unreal against the blitz. Going to have to find creative ways to put pressure on him tonight. Let's go to some of the offensive playmakers. JSN, first in the NFL in yards. You got Puka Nacua on the other side, second in the NFL in receiving yards. In the playoffs alone, Cooper Kupp has 800-plus receiving yards, so he's been a massive factor in the playoffs throughout his career. Former triple crown winner. Just some great offensive talents in this game. Some of the best receivers in the NFL that you will ever see will be playing in this game. I think that's one of the reasons everybody is so darn excited for this matchup. Just absolute talent all the way across the board. Not to mention Devontae Adams, 14 touchdowns and NFL best at the receiver position. You have Karen Williams and Kenneth Walker coming in this, both over 1,000-yard rushers. And as we mentioned before, Matthew Stafford, the front runner for the MVP, and Sam Darnold, 4,000-yard passer and Pro Bowler. Just amazing offensive talent heading into this game. Now, back to our matchups with Sam Darnold and the Seahawks offense versus the Rams, okay? Chris Shula, defensive coordinator for the Rams. They like to run a lot of nickel package or even dime package, meaning they're only running 2 linebackers and 4 guys on the front with 5 defensive backs. Now, on the other hand, Seattle with Clint Kubiak, we love to run a heavy personnel, a 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, Sauber and A.J. Barner. If they want to stay in nickel package against that, we need to run the ball against them all day while they have 5 defensive backs on the field. And if they want to run dime, it's the same thing. We have to stick with that heavy personnel, our base formation, to try to force them to get into base formation. And if they come into base, throw it over the top. Now, there are ways for us to infiltrate this Rams defense, as we had 414 yards in the last matchup. The problem has been the 6 turnovers, the 6 interceptions we've had against them. Need to find more ways to take advantage of them. I mean, huge pass rushers on the other side for the Rams, Byron Young, Kobe Turner, Jared Verse. Just an absolutely strong front 4, and Seattle at left tackle has Charles Cross dealing with an injury, the backup Josh Jones dealing with an injury, and his backup also dealing with an injury. It sounds like Charles Cross is going to give it a go. Now, that is a matchup to watch. Need him to stay healthy there on that front and hold up against these guys. I am not worried about Cross's talent. Just keep an eye on that. We don't have any other left tackles healthy, and Charles Cross was questionable all week. If that can hold up, that's going to give the Seahawks a much greater chance in their play action passing game to execute down the stretch. All right, let's talk about Seattle's defensive front 4. Again, a bunch of absolutely disruptive animals. Probably 2 of the best defensive front 4s in the NFL this year between the Rams and the Seahawks. You start off with Leonard Williams, defensive tackled, Jaron Reed. You have Boye Mafe off the edge, Uchenna Nwosu off the edge, not to mention Byron Murphy, the absolute anchor in the middle, who has improved his pass rushing skills immensely this year with 7 sacks this year. Again, finding a way to get pressure on Stafford without blitzing, this group can do it. Need to mix in some simulations and some stunts and some things that will throw them off. They may be able to put some disguises in there and find ways to do it. Get pressure from the interior on Stafford, knock him out of his pocket, knock him out of his rhythm, and find ways to make him more uncomfortable so he doesn't sit back there and tear us apart like he did last time in Seattle. This is going to be detrimental to Seattle's success. Now, injury watch. Let's go over some things here. Charbonnet's out. The Seattle Seahawks left tackle situation is insane because Charles Cross, while he is going to go give it a go, he's hurt and all of his backups are out. Okay. Now, as far as the Rams, they're pretty healthy for the most part. Emmanuel Forbes, one of their defensive backs, is banged up, and Roger McCreary stepped in last week. Now, this may be something worth looking into if JSN can get a favorable matchup against a guy like McCreary today. We'll see what JSN can do. See what this guy's made of. Special teams, Jason Myers, great kicker. He's got long range, although he did miss that game winner against the Rams first time around. Michael Dixon, we have a Pro Bowl punter, and not to mention Rashid Shaheed, who has 3 return touchdowns on the year, and his punt return average is second all-time in NFL history. Rams kicker, they had some problems early on in the year. They brought this guy in, 16 for 17 on field goals. 45 for 45 on PAT. This guy's been absolute nails, and they call him the thicker kicker. Just take a look at him. He looks like a middle linebacker. All right, moving on to the AFC matchup. New England versus Denver. The Patriots are 8-0 on the road under Mike Vrabel. Both defenses in this game are top 10 in all major defensive categories. And nobody's talking about this New England defense. Well, I am. New England last game held Woody Marks to 14 carries, 17 yards, and a forced fumble. Okay, this New England team has been a playoff anomaly. For teams to go under 250 yards total of offense and have 3 turnovers, teams are 1-27 in the playoffs doing it, and the Patriots are the only team to have won, and they did that last week against the Texans. Now, yes, the Texans are an extremely stout defense, but that shows you that this offense hasn't even gotten going yet in the playoffs, and I think that today is when Drake May finds that rhythm back again. We know what it looks like. We know they have it. They made some big plays last week, just not huge on total yardage. Continue to watch New England's offense get more in a rhythm. Their defense is playing lights out right now. Their pass rush, they're forcing turnovers. They're winning games with little to no offense, and it hadn't even been done before how they won last week. Think about that. Drake May, first in the NFL with a 72% completion rate, 8.9 yards per completion, that's first in the NFL. 113.5 QBR, that's first in the NFL. 31 passing touchdowns, that is third in the NFL. The biggest number I like out of this guy, Drake May, out of North Carolina. He has a 48% tight window completion rate. That's the highest in the NFL, and that is 17% higher than the NFL average. The guy can squeeze it into windows that your mom couldn't even squeeze into. Cut that, sorry. Jarrett Stidham for the Broncos. He's a veteran. He's been around a long time. He's the backup quarterback with Bo Nix out. Jarrett Stidham getting the start today. Josh McDaniels, he's been around McDaniels since he was in New England, so he has a rhythm, he has a flow with him. Stidham this postseason was 30 for 38 at an 80% completion rate, 4 touchdowns, no picks. So absolutely tore it up in the postseason. And they say history repeats itself. Now, I don't know how I feel about it, but I'm going to give you some examples. Frank Reich for the Bills did it. He came in as a backup and took the Bills to the Super Bowl. Jeff Hostler for the Giants, same thing, and they went on to win the Super Bowl. He came in as a backup late in the season. And, of course, you all know the Nick Foles story after Carson Wentz got injured. He came in and did it for the Eagles. So it's possible. It is possible. Turnover battle. Patriots have a +3 margin. That's 10th in the league. Broncos -3. That is 19th in the league. Now, going down to special teams, we just talked about Rashid Shaheed being second all-time in punt return yards per return. New England has this guy named Marcus Jones. He has 2 punt return touchdowns this year, and he's averaging 14.3 yards per return throughout his career. That is number 1 in NFL history right now as it stands. And who is number 2? Rashid Shaheed. Again, on the other side here, they have Marvin Mims returning punts. He also has a punt return touchdown this weekend. So lots of great special teams this weekend, lots of great punt returners out there. Marcus Jones got to watch out for. Don't kick the ball to him, Denver. All right, personnel notes. J.K. Dobbins could be back this week. Troy Franklin's banged up. Cortland Sutton was a little bit uninvolved last week, so we will see if they get him involved in the game. Now, here's where I stand on this, okay? The Patriots have been able to win games with almost minimal offense, but their red zone efficiency is great. Drake May has been amazing this year at completing passes in tight windows. I don't think strong defenses scare him. As you saw, he still was able to perform and put touchdowns on the board against the Texans. I think they're going to continue to find a rhythm today against Denver, and Denver with their backup quarterback, Jarrett Stidham, starting today, and the way New England brings on fresh pass rushers, and they have a substitution system to keep their guys and their pass rush lethal. I think Stidham is going to struggle, and New England comes out with the win. Now, I'm not taking spreads, okay? What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a 2-leg parlay that I absolutely love to hit this weekend. I'm going to take Seattle +7.5, okay? That game is a coin flip. It can go either way. Now you might ask, why don't I take the Rams +7.5? I don't want to bet against Seattle right now with how they absolutely just blew the doors off the Niners, but I do want that +7.5 in case this game goes to OT and they lose by a touchdown. It's overtime proof. So what you do is you parlay Seattle plus 7.5 with New England money line, a team that's defensively playing lights out and their offense is just starting to get going. Seattle plus 7.5 and New England money line for a minus 140 banger. Lock it in this weekend and let's make some money, baby. Make an impact. Let's go.
I'm balling to my very last breath. I'm balling to my very last breath.